Next up for our discussion tonight is Ryobeat, one of the people who, again, has so many results, and there's even a bunch of locals not missing here. Fortunately, he posted a pretty comprehensive recovery of his head-to-head records with notable wins and losses, so we can look at that instead of going antagonizing over every single local result. And again, this is more what the more important thing we're going to see when we look at locals is like greater trends. Like even with hacks is incredible, and like down on Tuesday makes sense in the Puff Peach matchup. But we're gonna do as we normally do, run through all of the big tournaments from the year, see what we like, see what we don't like, and get a feel for where we think Ryobeat is going to be ranked by the end of the year. Let's start at the beginning with the first Smash Camp, not to be confused with the later Smash Camp, and why is there an extra space here, where Ryobeat picked up a win over Homemade Waffles. I don't think that is anything really to highlight, not anything against Brandon, losing the Axe and Spark, who I contend is one of the best up-and-coming players. Not that he is like up-and-coming in the way Sunsei is, but up-and-coming in that higher range. I think Spark is definitely someone to look out for. If you don't already hear me talk about Spark enough, I'm a really big Spark fan. Next up is Gigahog, losing to a player we recently talked about, Swooper, who he is in Jersey. He is 5th in Jersey, so ranked below Ryobeat. And what's the trend for the year? I believe you just said it in chat, 0-3 on Swooper. So it looks like he's still got something to figure out in the Samus matchup, and definitely something we want to be highlighting though, especially when we know that greater trend that Swooper is someone that could potentially be a problem, or any other Samuses in the future. And then Cess is a Fox, 13th in New England. Do we have a greater trend for playing against Cess? This is not a 101, or did I just put in the results wrong? Nonetheless, the Cess loss is something we do not want to see, so we'll hit that with the red to keep that highlighted in importance. We move down to a surprisingly really good at Genesis 6 win over Dawson. Again, it's just when I see like tri-state people or I see New England people, I'm probably more likely to put them in, even if they're not on like the caliber, because Dawson isn't near making the top 100 by any means. But I recognize Dawson's name, so sometimes I'll sleep in here. And Ty was ranked 72nd, so is that the first we should be highlighting? So it is a 1-1 record on Cess. Okay, so that's important to know. Oh yeah, we have the Cess win right there. That's actually something really important to note, and I was talking about when I was talking about Sharks a little bit earlier. We see that Ryobeat's dropping the Cess here, and then a month later, a little bit less than a month later, we see him coming back and winning the run back, which I think is really important for his trajectory moving forward. And I think we might see that somewhere else. Oh yeah, we have the loss to West Balls, and then the next time they played for the year, beating him. I know that West Balls had like something wrong with his thumb, or was having like control issues or something like that. I know there's some sort of John mixed into that, but still winning the run back on West Balls is really good, even if he had like his finger messed up or Smash Camp. And there's that whole debacle with Smash Camp of like who's playing secondaries, who's drinking, who's not trying seriously. That was just a whole sort of mess. That's like just a rough 65th. Not rough in like a poor performance, like rough in the caliber of players you lost to. So, West beat Keizu at Smash Camp. Yeah, so he wasn't playing that off. Yeah, no, Wally's not on the belt, but he's coming up. He's there. So not a highlight, but it's definitely still really good. So yeah, nothing, I think in either the wins or losses column, there's nothing really to highlight there. I think this is more indicative of Ryobeat's consistency. I think is definitely comprehensively a good event to add to his resume, but I don't think there's any individual part here that I think needs to be highlighted. Moving down to 17th of the gang, losing to Curb. Yeah, well, if we're highlighting the Swooper, and not that Swooper and Curb are on the same levels, we looked at both there, so you can give me, I think I said Swooper would probably be ranked higher than Curb. And is there any more sets that have played against Curb for the year? What's the head-to-head? 1-1 on Curb. So there's another example of that. I think that's really, again, incredible to see. And just a couple of weeks later, playing Curb again and beating him. Yeah, that's incredible to see. Always excited to see someone win the run back, especially with a character like Game & Watch that you're probably not going to see a lot, where I don't know how much Ryobeat played Game & Watch like the years before. And again, that would be diving way too much into the individual data for someone to be considered for the ballot. In one of those weird matchups that you might not see a lot, studying and knowing what your game plan is, like going into those matchups, is super important. And it looks like Ryobeat did exactly that. But Juicebox and Majorisk Falcon in Pittsburgh, who recently followed me on Twitter, shoutouts to the boy, and Juicebox Chic in MDVA. So again, I don't think either of those are highlights. So neither on the ballot, but again, good wins, showing consistency, beating players like slightly below him. I think, again, really incredible to see. especially kind of hinting in the future of what we're going to see from Maxi, and what has me concerned about Maxi's resume with a lot of losses for players ranked like slightly lower than him based on my perception of the European scene. Like all these and all these two right here, these two right here, and the Dawson win are all just showing consistency on beating the players just like right below, which I think is really, really good to see. The Crunch loss isn't the greatest thing in the world. Crunch is probably sitting like right outside. I think Crunch is probably like right outside qualifying to be on the bout. Still a good player. And also, let me fix that highlight because that's going to bother me. Beating Franz is really good because Franz is most likely going to make the top 100. Definitely a player around here. If we're continuing on the trend of players right around, wins over players right around and not highlighting them. So I probably, if I'm not going to highlight Curve, Warmer, yeah, I'm probably not going to highlight the Franz, but good to see Curve and Crudo. Curve is the Luigi. Nah, I think Gigahog probably stands out as Ryobeat's worst performance of the year. With the second Melee Arcadian maybe being a little bit close behind. It is really interesting to see like one of your worst performances of the year followed by a string of incredible performances. Definitely a really good upward trajectory. I feel like I'll be super informed for the third National Melee Arcadian. I'll be super informed for that. Also get like Wheat or Pika or someone who knows all of these players to do commentary there. I don't know if Wheat is interested in doing commentary, but having someone like Melee Stats who knows like all these players and knows like a ton of their results would be cool to have on commentary at the Arcadian. These results right here are of a really good regional player. I think that these are the results of a really good regional player. This is probably not someone who makes top 100 because there's nothing like crazy. Like the Taiwan's good, but I don't think this player alone makes the top 100. But maybe something kicked Ryobeat into second gear because we see a Prof win here, which is absolutely incredible. I think Prof's going to be top 50 with how he finished off his year. I believe he has that S2J win, if I'm not mistaken. That he got at one of those European tournaments. But this is definitely an incredible win to have. And again, like if Ryobeat didn't have these wins on the lower end, I'd maybe be highlighting the Franz win and the other players around that layer, like the Curb win as well. But because highlighting them wouldn't be fair to the Prof win and the West Balls win and the Jake and Shaken win. It's absolutely nuts. I guess the loss to Tooth is maybe a little bad. It's hard to gauge when someone steps away from the game how good they are coming back, because I believe Tooth is focusing on teaching music right now, but he's still, even though he's not focusing on the game. And again, this event as a whole, even if the Tooth loss, I guess I can highlight it because he's pretty inactive. Like, not my favorite thing in the world to see. Moving down to Defend and North, losing the Hugs and Toussaint. Okay, and then we continue to move down, losing the Cool Lime. So a little surprising to see. I don't know how good Cool Lime is at the Icy's Peach matchup, but like, actually, let me go through. I feel like for players who are also in the conversation for the bout, I'd be dumb, even though I don't have a lighter shade of blue to highlight them with. To not highlight these guys. Picking up a West Balls win, incredible. As we said earlier, he was having control issues or something like that. And then finishing off the year at House of Pain 22, picking up 2 more top 100 wins. Jake and Shaken, who's 43rd in the summer rankings, and then Boyd, I should have looked at it while I was there, 67th. So right outside the top 50. I don't know where Boyd is currently, but the Jake and Shaken win is definitely good. It's gonna be, I'm interested to see where Jake and Shaken is going to fall, because he started off the year beating a ton of Spaceys players, and then I think he picked up a bunch of losses to people who don't play Fox or Falco. Also important to note, for upward trajectory, not for ranking's sake, that I believe both these Lucky and Moki sets were game 5s, which is really, really dope to see for upward trajectory. Again, not something we can give Ryobeat in the W column because he didn't win the set, but because we're definitely seeing a trend here, like right after or including the Melee Arcadian, because Ryobeat held seed, beating Prof, beating West Balls, beating Jake and Shaken and Boyd, finishing off the year on that run that seems like a pretty good upward trajectory. And I briefly mentioned it earlier that, and we can go over these local records real quick. Down on Tuesday makes sense. Finishing the year even with West Balls is really dope. Again, winning the run back, even with Curb winning the run back, but still, I'd rather not see those losses. But again, locals. And generally these winning, well, I guess the notable losses are in here as well. Again, we don't want to see a lot of these. The losing record to Swooper is not my favorite thing in the world. Really, JD has 0-2. Let's go JD. Down on Fable, up on Itai, even with Zealous. So I think like as a whole, like generally, I was going to say good local results. I'd say pretty okay local results. More willing to give a benefit of the doubt for someone who's kind of on this come up and you can see a clear positive trend. And with a lot of these losses to players in that sort of general category, we're seeing them win the run. We're seeing Ryobeat win the run back. Like I'd be curious curious to see another set against Crunch or against Curve or Crudo. So, will Ryobeat make the top 100? I think that the answer to that is a very, very clear yes from me. The wins and the trajectory, I think, is what does it together for me. Well, especially the wins. The Prof, Westballs, Jake and Chicken, having that be your core 3. It seems like a lot of the players around this level end up getting like between 1 and 3 like core wins to carry them. It weirdly seems everything comes in 3s. It does seem like the big wins comes in 3s. We're not going to go this deep in a he beat him, so they beat them, so that's really good. But Prof has a win over Triff, so he's no pushover in the Peach matchup. So seeing that Ryobeat was able to beat Prof, who was able to beat Triff in the matchup, is really good to see that a matchup experience. And also having the winning record over Hacks shows that Ryobeat is pretty good against Spaceys between the Hacks wins and the Westballs win. Okay, so circling back to giving a number. So where do I think Ryobeat will be ranked on this year's top 100? Definitely have the consistency, at least in the second half of the year, going for Ryobeat, which I think is really cool. And for players who have similar wins, which I can't think of any player that we looked at. Let's have a little fun little experiment. Where is he? Let's talk about players a little bit close to each other. Who's going to be ranked higher, Swooper or Ryobeat? Am I going to start Jersey Beef? Let's do it. Yeah, so there's that little triple there, Bananas, Kels, Calvar. I think the Prof, Westballs, Jake and Shaken trio is a whole lot better than that. Losses-wise, I think it's pretty clearly Ryobeat over Swooper. Not that Swooper's results aren't good, and I don't think Swooper's going to make the top 100, but it looks like, just from the quick glance and the way we highlighted that, worse losses and not nearly as good wins as Ryobeat, and also having an upward trajectory near the end of the year, whereas I wouldn't say, maybe I'd say down a little bit, especially finishing off the year with a DJ Nintendo loss. Yeah, but I think Ryobeat would be higher than Swoop. Yeah, so where Ryobeat will end the year, again, as I say every time, and you're sick of hearing me say it because I've already said it once during the stream, this area of ranking people is really difficult, but with the generally pretty good consistency and some incredible wins at the top of the level, I'd say maybe anywhere between like 70 to 85 feels about right for Ryobeat. I'm very excited looking into the future though, with how much Ryobeat seems to have a passion for the game. Winning on his birthday recently at that local. And more important than both those things, besides passion and like attending locals and all that, those stupid things, having an upward trajectory near the end of the year is really incredible to see. Still, Sunsei is the player I'm looking at to, not to undercut all of these nice things that I just said about Ryobeat. Sunsei is still definitely like the #1 player in the next year that I think I'm looking forward to the most. But also Ryobeat's, almost got through without doing it. Ryobeat's definitely up there for a player I'm looking out for in this up and coming year. 2020 Melee is going to be sick. And I think that about does it for our discussion of Ryobeat.